Hi everybody, and here's another episode of the Miss Myers Show. I thought that I would take you outside the front of my house. Well, don't turn the camera, but that's the front of my house. That's the street. So that's how how it works like that. There used to be all kind of houses over there, but well, hold on, I'm making a comment to the camera person. Don't do any crazy things.
I'm just showing
No,
them.
don't do that. Just stay focused on me. Alright, there used to be houses back there, but after Katrina, they were all torn down, and so now it's just blank space. So I thought just a little thing different. So, what we're going to talk about today is economic systems and how they work with our economy. An economic system is a particular set of principles that deals with production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services. Who decides what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce depends on the economic system. Three basic types of economic systems are market economy, command economy, and mixed economy. All right, market economy. A market economy is an economic system where people and businesses and firms have complete freedom on what to purchase and produce. That's kind of like, whatever you want to make, you have the ability to do. So let's, the person over Steve Jobs and the people over at Apple, they came up with the idea to make the iPad. And in a market economy, they have the freedom to do it. The people have the freedom to decide what to produce and what to purchase. Like I decide, your parents, they have decided to, maybe buy you, I don't know, certain computers or certain books, things like that. Okay, blow them over there. All right, that is a market economy. That's where you have the decision. Your parents, whomever is the person purchasing something, has the decision to purchase what they want. Okay? Decisions about the distribution and resources are without government intervention and are influenced by competition, supply, and demand. All right, that means that the government is not going to get involved in what you purchase. That's in a market economy. It's a completely up to you. There is no government choices. Are you focused on me? Because it's not. Okay. No country is an entirely free market country. No country. Because there are countries, even the United States, where the government does tell you, kind of give you guidelines on what you need to do in certain areas. The term, the free enterprise or market economy, is basically used to describe countries with a high level of market freedom. Like the United States, we have a high level of freedom where people do have that choice. However, like I just said, in the United States and in major first world countries, the government does tell you a little bit, give you sanctions in certain areas, such as, education, some of public services, which we talked about before. All right? Now I'm going to talk about three different things here in the market economy. Capitalism. That is a free market economic system in which land and capital are privately owned, meaning individual people or corporations own the means of production and distribution of goods, not the government. That's what we have here. Stop her! Don't do that! Go! So with capitalism, that means that individual people can own companies and own, things like that. For example, this bench. If we bought this from
Big Lots.
Big Lots, and, someone owns Big Lots. They own that company. They got the money, not the government. Now, there are government institutions that are, like the post office and things like that. But in a capitalistic society, in capitalism, we're not talking about public goods and public services. Capitalism is talking about privately owned goods. That's fine. Privately owned goods, privately owned businesses. When we talk about a private versus public good, we talked about that in class last time. A private good is something that you own. It is privately owned. It's privately purchased. Kind of like my shoes. These are privately owned. I bought these. These are my shoes. They're not publicly known. Public good would be books that I borrowed from the library. They're not mine. They're publicly owned. So that's the difference. Capitalism is a free market economy. When we talk about capitalism, we're talking about items and businesses that are owned by the public, not the government. Okay? Owners of the land and capital, as well as the workers they employ, are free, this is all about capitalism, are free to produce and sell products and services with the goal of making money for themselves. Thank you. In capitalism, the goal is to make money. You know, that's the major goal, is to make a profit. So while Tom's, people who make the shoes, they do help things, and they, help, I think they send shoes.
Cancer.
Do different things. Their main goal is to make money, because this is capitalism. They're working in a free market economy.
Hello, Mom.
All right? Okay. All right, I could edit all that out. The next thing is laissez-faire, and that's something we hear a lot of in Louisiana, and that means to pretty much leave everything alone. Laissez-faire, so leave free. And this is the principle that the economy works best in a free market where the government is completely not involved. Now, we talked last time, I think a couple of classes ago, about the Sherman Antitrust Act and things like that. Those were legislation that was put in forth by the government to kind of prevent certain companies from growing too large and monopolies from being too big. With a laissez-faire form of government, they would say that the government could not get involved whatsoever. But there are instances when the government needs to get involved, like during the Great Depression, when FDR was trying to get us out of the Depression. The government got involved. In a laissez-faire economy, the government would not get involved at all, no matter what. There would be no government involvement. Okay? So those are your two things that we're talking about. Capitalism and laissez-faire. Okay? Next thing we're going to talk about is command economy. And a command economy is an economic system where resources and business activity are controlled by the state or government. In countries with a command economy, such as North Korea, the government controls the economy and the use and distribution of income. So we're going to talk about two different types of a command economy. You've probably heard about both of them. The first one is socialism, and this is a command economy that stresses communal ownership. That means that everyone is equal. And ideally, that sounds great. One socialist, a person who truly believed that everyone should be equal, we're going to learn about him a little bit more after the leap, is Huey Long. In Louisiana, during the time of Huey Long, was right around the Great Depression. And there were lots and lots and lots of very poor people living in this state. The majority of people were poor. Huey Long ran on the platform of every man is a king. Every person should have equal opportunity and equal wealth. He wanted to put a cap on how much money certain people could make. So socialism is where everybody is the same. There's no wealthy, there's no poor. A socialist would think it's kind of wrong. Like, I drive a van, and I'll walk around my van and show you guys in a little bit. There's bumps and dents and all stuff all over it. My neighbor down the street has a Mercedes-Benz. So that's really not socialism, because we obviously have two separate cars. I have the van, which is almost paid off.
Do you want me to show them?
No, not yet. And I'm happy about it. And my neighbor down the street, was not even there today or right now, has a beautiful silver Mercedes-Benz. That's a command economy. A capitalism. That's capitalism. We purchase those on our own. We live in a capitalistic society. If we were socialist and lived in socialism, I'd have a van, he'd have a van, she'd have a van. We'd all be the same. Okay, in socialism, they basically want everybody to be the same. The main principle of socialism is that the central government plans and controls all resources and all aspects of the economy while attempting to achieve equal distribution of wealth among everyone in the society. So like I said, there would be no rich, no poor. We'd all be the same. So, all right. Next one is communism. Communism is where it's basically based on the same principles of socialism. It's a single, often authoritarian leader holds the power, claiming to make progress towards a higher social order in which all goods are equally shared by the people. Kim Jong-un, Kim Jong-il, these are both communist leaders. Stalin, Lenin, Marx, these are all communist people who truly believe that one person, one authoritarian person, should be the leader of everyone else. Okay? In communism, all goods are equally shared by the people, but you do have one ruler, one person who kind of tells everybody else what to do. And communism is a big, when you hear that word, especially in America, it's really scary. Because here in our country, we have a democracy. We don't have a direct democracy. We have representative democracy. But we do have a democracy, meaning that everyone has a voice. If you're 18 or older, you have a voice of what happens. In a communist state, that one person is going to be the one that's going to really be deciding a lot of what's going on. And everyone's going to be equal. Okay? So, modern communism, because there are people who advocate communism and socialism and say that's the way to go. There are people out there that say that. Modern communism advocates the abolition, which means the getting rid of, capitalism and all private profit. Okay? I have a cousin who is like this. I haven't spoken to him in quite some time, but he's, believes that everyone should be equal, and he travels all over the country, and he's something else. But, there are people out there who think that this should happen, that there should not be, different wealth and different things for people. There should be more, the same. And in communism, that's what pretty much they believe. And one of the things in communism is that they believe that in order to achieve this, violence might be necessary, meaning that they might have to do some kind of violent takeover. One of the examples of that is the Russian Revolution. When, excuse me, I'm having a brain fart. When Vladimir Lenin and the Bolsheviks took over the Tsar and the Tsarina, Imperial Russia, they took over with force. They killed the royal family. They murdered them, all of them. And they set up a communist government in Russia. They took over. It was one where they had a monarchy, and they also had a prime minister and things like that. But there was a huge gap between rich and poor. Lots of people were very, very upset. And Lenin decided he was going to lead them to take over the Romanovs and murdered the whole the royal family. And including Anastasia. That was a big thing with Anastasia. She was murdered too. They found her bones eventually. A lot of people ask me, is it true that Anastasia got away? No. They found all the bones. Everybody's bones were found. They were all killed at the same time. Individual liberties such as freedom of speech and the pursuit of individual prosperity are not permitted in a communist society. So, my husband and I are we like politics. We really, really enjoy politics. But we are two different political parties. I'm not going to tell you who's what, but we are not the same. So, in this is the first, I think this next election, presidential election in 2016, I can guarantee on the two spots of this lawn will be two competing political posters voting for two different candidates. I guarantee it. But because we have the freedom of speech to do that in this country, in a communist country, you don't have that. You can't come out here and say, I like this person or I don't like this person. You can't do that. In our country, in a democracy, you can, but in a communist country, you cannot. Okay? You can't do freedom of speech. That's just something that you can't do. That in a communist country, the central government and its controlling party hold all of the powers over the people. Kind of like North Korea right now. And that's a big thing that you hear right now. Okay, a mixed economy. And a mixed economy is an economic system where there's a mixture of government and private ownership. We are a mixed economy here in the United States. Because like I said, if you want to pan over here to my lovely, cute little baby, she is here, and I will come show you. This, right here, this beautiful car, this is her car. Don't get crazy with it, just stand back. Go back where you were. This car, this street is public property. When I was about 6 months pregnant with Vivian, they came and tore all of this up, all of this. And they came out here with all kind of jackhammers and cranes, all kind. It was so loud, it was driving me crazy. And I was trying to work in there. It was just mind-blowing. But this is public property. This is run by the government. The government is the one who comes and, you know, gets all this and fixes all this. So we have a mixed economy because we have some things that are private, like Vivian's little car, and then we have some public, like our roads. So that's what we have here. Okay? Turn.